We're now live.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. I am Ken Free. I am one of the co-founders of the Sego Awards. And we're really excited today to have Jeremy and Kristin Andrus joining us here. Just to introduce both of them a little bit. So Jeremy is the CEO of Trigger. Kristin, I think online it says you're the Chief Culture Officer. But you're also a health and fitness expert, a well-known influencer in the state of Utah, and professional party hoster, I think. But both of them have also been involved with Sego over the last year. They were two of our judges from last year's Sego Awards, and so we've been very grateful for their support of the Sego Awards. Just to give a quick overview of what the Sego Awards is. So the Sego Awards is Utah's first awards for female entrepreneurs. We recognize, last year I think we had 9 different categories. We will have one additional category this year. And we had over 500 women who were nominated last year. This year, today, we are launching Sego Awards 2020. So the nominations for this year's awards are open now. And if you go to segooawards.com, you can see that nomination form. And we would invite you to nominate any women in business that you feel like is deserving of being recognized. Our goal is to celebrate and recognize as many women entrepreneurs as we can. Like I said, last year we had about 500 nominations, and this year we have a goal to have 1,000. So please get on there and nominate as many as you can. Last quick note is this year's awards gala will be on Friday, May 8th up at Sundance Mountain Resort. So we would invite all of you to join us there. And with that, we want to dive right in with Jeremy and Kristin and ask some of the questions that have been submitted. And we appreciate all of you who have asked those questions. So actually, I think I'll start here. You know, both of you have been involved in Sego for last year as judges, and now hosting like our launch party tonight. Why have you been interested in supporting Sego, and like what value do you see in recognizing the women entrepreneurs in the state?
So I was thinking about this today actually as I was driving over, and I was laying in bed with my daughter the other night, and I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the list in my head was kind of all the things that the list was when I was little, 30 years ago. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, that list is completely changed, has been completely wiped out. And there's a new list of, and this like broad, bold, cool jobs that women can do now. And so when I started bringing up things, I thought there is so many cool entrepreneurial things that she can do. There's just so much out there. And so that's what I love. I love honoring these awesome women. We were judges last year, and when I was looking at the statistics, they are legitimate boss women. I couldn't believe how well their businesses were doing. I think you see things on Instagram, you see that they're selling whatever that it may be. They are legitimate, real businesses, and they're working really hard. And obviously they have, a lot of them have families, they have a lot going on. And so I think it's so cool for my kids, I have 4 daughters, to see that this is a real possibility and something that can absolutely happen.
Great.
I guess I would start from the perspective of an entrepreneur, which is being an entrepreneur is a life-changing experience. It's full of adversity, it's hard, it's high adrenaline, it's awesome, and I can't imagine my life had I gotten a job and just continued to do the same thing every day. And so there's been something life-changing for me and for our family about being an entrepreneur, and combine that with something that Kristin alluded to, which is we have four daughters, and I'm so impressed with what's going on in the state of Utah right now, and it's changed a lot since I came here, 15 years ago. And number one, I want my daughters to have opportunities to be great entrepreneurs. I want them to have access to capital and to mentors, and I want them to be treated equitably. The other thing, there's such a great community here, and it's something that I think is easy to take for granted, but community is everything. Mm-hmm. And we say that in the Traeger Nation, Traeger community, but there's something really inviting and supportive about what's going on in Utah. And I gotta tell you, I've loved getting to know some of the women entrepreneurs. I sit on Rachel Nilsson's board at RAGS, unfreaking believable entrepreneur. Allie, who was my partner's executive assistant at Skull Candy, turned out she's an unreal entrepreneur. She's built this wonderful, authentic business, and there's a lot of joy.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of joy in seeing them succeed. And I didn't know anything about Sego until I went to the first. You guys reached out and said, "Will you judge?" I said, "Sure," and showed up. And it's like all of these great entrepreneurs, this great energy, and Chris and I left just feeling real pride in having those women together. It's really cool.
No, thank you both. Yeah, it's been great to have you both involved. We appreciate that. There are many different ways to start a business, and I think a lot of people who are getting into entrepreneurship, a lot of women out there, aren't sure the path to take. One of the ones that I think isn't quite as well known is what you did with Trigger, which is you bought an existing business and stepped in and now have led this. So maybe talk a little bit just about that process of stepping into an existing business. How did you go about, identifying it, buying it, and if somebody wanted to follow that path to entrepreneurship, what advice would you have for them?
Boy, so it's interesting. I've done both, start up and buy a business and build it. It's first of all, I had this realization as I came out of Skull Candy that we got so lucky. There was, of course, we worked hard, and every entrepreneur does, and we did things right. We did a lot of things wrong, but there is a, startups are high beta, and there's an element of sprinkling magic on a startup that sometimes you don't completely control. When I found Traeger, I realized the magic existed, and what it needed was a different approach to a 26-year-old business that hadn't grown or expanded outside of the Pacific Northwest. And so I think if you are a pure founder entrepreneur, you are driven by new ideas, new vision, and you don't mind getting really dirty and even tinkering for some period of time before you find something that works. If you find a business that has something special to it, then it's about bringing an entrepreneurial perspective, but really digging deep into execution. And they're both fun. I've actually loved both. I would never trade my Skull Candy experience. I wouldn't trade my experience with Igloo's Frozen Drinks, and you've never heard of it. It was a grind, it was hard work, but I loved it and I learned from it. And I think at the end of the day, if you are driven to build and to disrupt and to innovate, it almost doesn't matter if it's startup or further along. What matters is that you bring this approach to just seeing the world differently.
Absolutely. Kristin, you are a well-known influencer on Instagram here in the state, and we've seen in Sego a lot of women use Instagram as one of the primary channels for connecting with customers, driving sales. You have built such a great community with your followers and you're really connected with them. What advice would you have for women who are using that as an avenue to promote their business or themselves as a brand, ways they can connect with those customers better?
Right. So I do have to say that I don't do any ads, and I'm not necessarily trying to sell anything, but the more I look into it and I read about it and I watch people, I actually listened to a podcast the other day that said no one's going to remember the bullet points. No one's going to remember really anything you say. They will remember a story. And I think storytelling on Instagram can be so powerful. You're going to go away from a post or from stories, stories on Instagram, and you can remember a story. And so I'm starting to connect with my audience because people say oh, I've done that. I've been there. I have kids that do that. So when you can be raw and real and not just kind of these perfect pictures, I think we're kind of getting past that where it's all staged and perfect, but people can say, me too. Me too, I've been there. And so I've noticed that people can remember a story, they share stories, it's something they can think about, where sometimes when you're trying to teach or sell or something like that, it's kind of hard to remember because there's so much being thrown at you. but something I'm trying to lean more towards is being authentic, truly like just how my life is, showing the good and the bad, the ups and the downs. And if you have a lot of ups, share those, and when you have a lot of downs, sharing those as well. But to me, I think when I read a good, even if it's a short little story, that really connects. And when I can read someone's post, I can see pictures and I see myself in that person, I think that's when there's a connection. The last thing I would say is you have to communicate. It has to be in back and forth. You can't just go on and post. You need to engage. You're answering DMs, you're commenting, you're really connecting with these people who feel like there's someone on the other side that cares about you.
People feel like they know you, even if they don't, right?
People do. They come up to me at the store and they're like, this is so weird. I totally know everything about you. And I'm like, actually, it's weird because I share everything about me.
Yeah.
You are not, but they're like, I feel like we're best friends. And they share really intimate, personal, like sometimes I never share the names, but sometimes I'll read some of these comments or direct messages to him and I'm like, wow, these are really intense, big things because I share too.
Yeah.
People know that there's a real life person behind the screen, and I know that they are the same. And so engaging with them, sharing your story. I think being authentic with who you are, what your story is, whether people like it or not.
Yeah.
Not trying to, tell people and sell what they want, but selling what you think is important.
That's great.
Do you know what? And what she's describing and what Kristin does so well is what great brands aspire to do.
Absolutely.
And she is simply herself, and she's sharing honesty and a story. And the hardest thing for a brand to be is authentic.
Yeah.
Like and we see it here all the time. At Traeger, the more we grow, the more we polish our content.
Yeah.
And polished content is beautiful, but it doesn't always speak to
It feels fake.
the heart of the consumer.
Yeah.
And so
That's
this is
hard.
like, and I agree. And Kristin doesn't, Kristin doesn't do it. She doesn't sell anything. And the brand, I guess, is Kristin Andrus and the family.
And Traeger once in a while.
Yeah.
And thank.
But authentically, like truly, right? That's like so
she
rough.
does it because it's what she loves.
Totally.
But I think if you see the world through the perspective of a consumer, a brand that is inauthentic, it doesn't matter how good your content is. If it doesn't connect, if it doesn't speak emotionally to you, then it loses its substance.
Totally.
Yeah. And I think that's hard though. I mean, look at brands and they do, their engagement gets lower and lower. And honestly, the more you grow, it gets lower. Like it's just the fact of Instagram and how it works. But
So is there anything people can do to keep it up? I mean, is it just the authenticity or?
I think engaging with your audience is like I talked about. I think that's really big. Being consistent, being out there, and I don't know. I think it's tricky. What I noticed too is sometimes you grow, right? I'll get a couple thousand new followers, but if they don't know me, like me, I don't actually want that growth because I care more about engagement.
Yeah.
I want people understanding me, connecting with me, where if I get all of a sudden I have 50,000 followers, but 15,000 of them don't care, don't engage with me, that actually is to my detriment. So I think you want real, true followers, and those that drop off, you want those guys to drop off.
Yeah.
You don't want them with you if they're not going to connect with you, and connection's huge.
That's
for
great.
sure.
That's awesome. So one thing that I have seen on your Instagram is that you are like world class at throwing events and parties and hosting people at your home.
I love it.
And I think that can be another thing that's so important for business. So it's something that's been big for us at Sego is being able to throw a great event. What advice or tips do you have for people just about that, about throwing a great party or making people feel connected through events?
Right. So having people into your home, I actually had a girl ask me this the other day, and she said, my house isn't exactly what I want, and I don't feel really proud of it, inviting people over. She said, I know I need to get over that. And I said, no, you really do. Like, you can have chips and dip and a Diet Coke, and people would come in this office and sit and hang out if you have connection.
Yeah.
People want to connect, and people want to be invited. And so I think just inviting and just starting, having one couple over for dinner. Maybe you're not starting out having a big party at your house. I look back through the years, I joke that our first parties were like in our very small house and very intimate, and they were nothing to take pictures of.
Yeah.
But we just did it. And now it's snowballed, and we throw big parties, and I love it and I enjoy it. But I think starting small, just inviting people over and realizing they didn't care about your blinds being broken or what you served them or that you burnt the chicken, which would never happen on a Traeger. But they really don't care when people are invited, or you could say, let's go out, let's go to somewhere. So my first thing would be just invite people out, invite people over. It is all about connection. People want to have connection. Second is plan ahead. If you're stressed out and you hate it, it will be a miserable night. So if you think a month from now, I'm gonna have 20 people over at my house, whether it be girlfriends or couples or a bunch of guys over for a game, Super Bowl, let's say, start thinking about it now. Don't wait until Friday night and run somewhere on Saturday, because then it will be stressful, you'll be worried about what you're serving. So plan ahead and enjoy the process. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but kind of think ahead, be prepared, and then when people do come over and you have an event like this, for instance, if we walk down the stairs and Jeremy's like on his phone stressed out and I'm kind of, whatever it may be, feeling concerned about the food's not out yet, people read that. The minute they walk into this party we're about to have, if you guys are running around like something's wrong, everyone will feel that. And so the energy of your party is all dictated by you. And I think if they come in and you're like, it doesn't matter, I forgot to do this, leave your shoes on, let's hang out and let's have a party. I'm gonna have such a good time no matter what. Everyone will come in and have the best night.
That's
Right?
perfect.
I agree.
I'm
just lucky to get invited.
Yeah. Actually, our last Christmas party a couple months ago, I sent him the first invite to test it and he denied. He said he wasn't coming.
You can tell that one of us is the introvert and one is the extrovert,
Yeah.
and I won't tell you which one.
Yeah, I couldn't even guess.
I remember we had just got married that summer, and it was probably October, and she said, "We're gonna throw a Christmas party." I said, "No, we're not." And like, by the way, I've never done that before, and we don't have any friends.
Yeah.
It's true.
And we did, and 30 people showed up,
Wow.
Yeah.
and
They just wanted to be invited.
and by the way, it's very, whether you're doing it for your friends, your family, your brand, being able to create energy and have people feel welcomed and sort of leave their worries behind, it's the best moment.
That's awesome.
Can I make one?
Yeah, of course.
One more comment really fast. I hosted a workout with a bunch of influencers, and everyone came and they're like, "This is so nice. Like, I don't have to post something. I don't have a stage thing. Like, I just had people over, and they seriously walked in, and I could just feel the like, this is so nice just to be invited." Because I know a lot of us here are on Instagram, and we're trying to do things. But say like, come to Traeger and let's just eat. Let's just hang out. Let's just relax together and share food and build community and all that. Like, it doesn't always have to be this, we're selling something. Sometimes just have people over or for your brand just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
It will seriously, like, just make people really loyal to you and grateful to you.
Yeah.
I found that was like an overwhelming
I imagine it can feel exhausting if you're always feeling like
Exhausting.
you're having to.
And I think sometimes people just end up not coming because they're invited to so much. So say, no strings attached, come and hang out, let's eat some good food and relax.
That's great. So you mentioned you have 4 daughters and you have twin boys, is that right too? So as parents, especially of the girls, like, what are some things that you would recommend to other people who are trying to help their daughters, like, get more exposure to business and entrepreneurship and potentially following this kind of entrepreneurial path in their lives? How can people do that better as parents?
Boy, so I remember early on, my dad had little ventures on the side, and we talked about them, and he helped me do some things as well. So I remember he had found this great gas cap innovation for your car, and we bought a box of them, and I went door to door selling them. And we were so
She was
excited.
an entrepreneur at like 5.
We were so excited about it. It was such a failure, but it was exciting. And one of the things that I love to do, and literally as we're driving to school this morning, we were talking about something at Traeger, is you talk about what you do, and you talk about the problems, and they ask questions, and then they start to bring them up. And so I think it really starts with, what do you do? Why is it fun? Can you actually love work? What if when your job isn't work because it's fun? And then our family's part of Traeger. Our children love to come to Traeger. There's an energy and a vibe, and it's not my business. We're very involved together, but it's a family thing, and I think that it starts to stimulate this understanding of what do we do, why do we do it, where does the energy come from, and over time I think that motivates them to be more entrepreneurial.
That's great.
Yeah, Jeremy is involved in so many women entrepreneurial things. I think too, talking to them about Rachel and what she's doing, and look how she started, and Allie and a lot of the girls. My kids aren't on Instagram yet, thank goodness. But I think eventually when they are, it's like, look how cool. Or even just telling stories about how things start and how they start, little, and they grow bigger. And it just, like, I went in this morning at 6, no, not 6, anyways, at 6 this morning, one of my daughters was curling my other daughter's hair. And Jeremy's so cute that he's like, if you go to college or beauty school or whatever you do, because this one daughter just loves doing hair. And I thought, I think too, sparking, like, well, maybe it's not always hair because she's 11, but I thought she loves this. Like, she is so good at it. It is her passion. Like, what could you do that would be cool with like hair? And so I think finding like what their love is, and maybe sparking something like, what are some cool things that you could do like that?
Yeah. No,
I actually that is the most important thing. If you can connect passion to possibility, meaning, so you like to do that, you can do anything. Right. I really want our children to understand they can do whatever they want. Now they've got to earn it, but if they have the passion, think big, think disruptively. That's a conversation that I think is important to happen from early on.
So I have 3 daughters too. All my kids are girls. My oldest, she always is having ideas for things that she's wanting to do. And I've noticed myself as a parent, sometimes it can feel like, oh, I don't want to make a mess. That's going to be a lot of cleaned up. Or
Sure.
The parent has to be so involved with helping them.
Yeah.
So my oldest, several times a year, wants to do a lemonade stand or sell stuff door to door. And my wife and I have had to talk about, like, even though it's exhausting for us, like, we actually need to show enthusiasm for that and jump on. If she wants to sell something, great, we'll help you. Go do it.
For some period of time, it's like getting your kids to do chores.
Yeah.
It would be so much easier to do the work yourself. But being part of the catalyst and providing, just being an enabler so that they can actually get to the point where they do themselves.
Yeah.
It's cool. They see how it works.
Absolutely.
One thing I think that's hard is kids are so involved in sports and things that maybe they don't spend as much time thinking about that kind of stuff. Like, I look at some of our kids who are really involved after school all the time in things. So maybe that's not always to their detriment, maybe, right? Like, if you're dancing 5 hours a day after school or doing things like that, can actually probably inhibit maybe some of your creativity. So we're kind of on both ends of the spectrum with our kids, but it's something to think about as you're raising kids. And
Absolutely.
I think about with Audrey, like, she doesn't have time to do a lemonade stand sometimes. Some of our daughters do, but some don't. So something to think about.
No, that's great. So, I think there are a lot of people out there who are interested in starting a business. Sometimes I've heard people say it feels overwhelming. I don't really know where to start. I think they're looking at, like, the end goal. They may look at a Traeger and say, like, I don't even know how to build a Traeger, right? I know you work with a lot of young entrepreneurs. Like, what are some of the patterns that you see that people can learn from to just take small steps so that they can get their foot in the door of entrepreneurship?
You know what? Super interesting discussion, and I've seen this with entrepreneurs who they want to build something big, they just don't know what.
Yeah.
And that's the wrong time to become an entrepreneur. I think the businesses that I see that are very successful, they didn't start with these big visions and raising tons of money. Those are actually oftentimes the businesses that don't do well. They don't invest resourcefully. The businesses that that I really admire that really go someplace, they start in the proverbial basement or garage. And it's an entrepreneur that sees a problem that they know how to solve. And then it turns into a great solution. And then it turns into a brand and a company and global. And, I'm thinking of a number of entrepreneurs that I know. Rick Allman, my partner in Skull Candy, he liked to snowboard. He wanted to be able to listen to music while he snowboarded and take a phone call. And he said, I bet I can connect the two cables to my phone and my MP3 player. And that turned into components for a snowboard helmet. And then it turned into a brand. And then it turned into a brand in 80 countries around the world. But it never started with an aspiration to build a public company sold in 80 countries around the world. I think of the story of so many entrepreneurs, even in Utah, or you think about Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. They had a passion for a problem. They saw a solution. And I've seen it here at Traeger. Traeger's become far more than I ever expected. We had passion for something, we had a small community, and then we just kept moving the goalposts, and the vision just keeps getting bigger. If you had asked me 6 years ago, would Traeger ever be what it is today, or certainly what we think it can be 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, that would have been daunting. I wouldn't have known where to start. So I think it's the baby steps, but it starts with an experience with a product. A product or a service, it starts with something that's different, that's meaningful, and then it grows.
That's great. Let's see, I think we'll probably just do maybe one last question here. So, would you both just talk a little bit about how in building this business together, you've managed to maintain a healthy relationship between the two of you? I think a lot of, the thing that I've been so impressed seeing so many of the women who have amazing businesses in Sego is they balance so many things, whether it's work or kids or anything else. And it's just so impressive. But I think some people then struggle with just how do I keep all my relationships strong? What's worked for both of you as you've grown Traeger and your other ventures here?
Definitely hard to balance, and practice makes perfect. I think when we look back on the Skull Candy days, that was not very balanced, and I had expectations that were never met. It was just hard. It was really hard. So if we were on Instagram now showing the Skull Candy days, it would not be what
we would be saying like this.
I'd like, you're late, I made dinner, it's cold, you haven't seen your daughter in 2 weeks. Just kidding. He worked a lot, he traveled a lot, and my expectations were that he would be home all the time. So I think over time, we both understood, I was not his biggest cheerleader then. I was always kicking against, you're traveling again, you're late again. It didn't work. And so when you become, I want him to win. I want Traeger to do well. It's provided amazing things for our family. And then I think on the other hand, he has also realized I need to make sure that I try to leave the office by 6:30 or so, that I don't have to go to every meeting in the whole company. It was really, but then I look back and maybe Skull Candy had to be that. Maybe we had to do that to get here. So I think having proper expectations of when you're an entrepreneur and you're building a business, it's not a 9-to-5 job. Just plain and simple, it will never be. He will never work 9 to 5. So that's my expectations. I will always be disappointed. If I know that his schedule is traveling, his schedule is getting home late, his schedule is dinners, things like that, and I can manage that and make myself and my kids whole and complete and happy knowing that, I think you're good. And just wanting, I want him to succeed. I am his teammate, his biggest support, and I think he's awesome. So
and how do you manage, because you are doing a lot yourself, right? Beyond just being a support, how do you balance being the mom to your kids and all that kind of stuff, doing all that you're doing?
Personally, I get help, and so I have help. And it's funny, I actually have help as I've had people come and help me. It's more I want to be able to drive my kids around and do this so that you can help me with whatever it may be. So there's kind of two of me helping to do stuff so that I can be the mom that I want. The last month has been really, really hard, and I realized like I need breaks here and there. So I think it's knowing what kind of mom you are, what you need in your life, because if I was running on low all the time, I actually texted him the other day and I said, out of the blue, and I said, thank you so much for like everything you do and are and help me. Because if I didn't have breaks once in a while, if I wasn't able to have my own thing and do my own thing, I would not be a good mom and I would not be a good wife. Like I realize that about me. And so some people can do that, and that's awesome. So I think it's understanding your needs as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, trying to have those met as much as possible, letting your spouse know, this is what I need just to survive, not even just to survive, but to thrive.
Yeah.
If you are always the last, if you are not taking care of yourself, I don't know, I'm bad at that. But,
That's great.
and then I feel like sometimes though, I don't know that he has that, because he's either at work or he's at home, like, there's not a lot of middle for him, so.
We have sort of a very stark contrast in terms of how we manage between Skull Candy and Traeger. And part of that, I think, is that although Kristen's always been supportive, Skull Candy was that was my gig, and I spent way too much time, far too many days a week, too many travel days a year, and so I was head down all the time. Traeger, I think a couple of things have changed. Number one, business is a team sport. It's with my organization, it's a team sport. Being an entrepreneur is stressful sometimes. There are moments where you are riding high, and then moments later, it's like you feel this burden. And to be able to go home and actually talk to Kristin about things that I don't talk to my investors about, I don't share with my board, I can't share with my team members. She knows what's going on here. She listens. She's my confidant. We do these things together. It truly has become a team sport, and we both love Traeger equally. And she does so much for Traeger in a very different way, in a female to a female community. It's something that's really important to us. So I actually learn watching what she is doing. I don't speak to a female customer the way that Kristin does, and so we do it together. But I also have come to really value what she also does and cares about in terms of service that she does with our family, outside of our family, her social media. It's really interesting to watch because there's not a business model, but she has. There's not, because she's chosen it that way, but it's fun to watch her enjoy interacting with people where she has positive influence and they give back. And so, we support each other deeply in our own interests, and we find common intersections in both of them.
That's great. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to do that and share your knowledge with all those people that follow the Sego account. And again, just for those of you watching, we would encourage you to nominate other amazing female founders starting today. And on Friday, May 8th, we'll have the Sego Awards Gala. So thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks. Cool. Hold on a second. Perfect.
Yes.